Alright, I'm Tyler Galassi, and I did my name, not my name, but my paper on religion and evolution. I'll start out by explaining the difference between evolution and science in general and religion. There's been a bit of rivalry for many years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, you'd say. I'm going to start off with a quote by Minnow Judson Savage. He says, "There's a grand division running through the thinking minds of civilization. On one side, which stands the advocates of religion, and on the other, the advocates of science." And a classic example, basically, of this, an historical example, Copernicus was one of the first to come up with the idea that the universe had a heliocentric, he was heliocentric with the sun in the middle rather than the Earth, which went against the teachings of the Catholic Church at the time. And he received a lot of criticism for that. And that was in the early 1500s, but then in the future, in the early 1600s, Galileo followed Copernicus's ideals, and that earned him house arrest for life because the Catholic Church put him away. And the next point here, creationism versus evolution, it's just two separate ideas for the separate factions, you could say, on how life came to be. And you can see this picture here. I found that www.divajz.com. I thought it was interesting name, but you just see that this is evidence for creation. Both sides are saying, and this evidence is for evolution, because both believe, on evolution side, that we all come from basically fishy ancestors that came out of the sea one day. And creationism, they talk about how God created Earth and everything on it. The next slide talks about religious thought and how religion can impact people's basic acts. Some say religion helps to form people's morals, helps them decide whether what's good and bad. But today, as you see in this picture, is especially with ISIS, religion can cause people to do many bad things. As Paul Bloom stated in his Religion, Morality, and Evolution paper, most would agree, after all, that religious fanaticism and extremism can sometimes drive people to do terrible things, like in terms of ISIS, like they previously bombed an airport and a train station in Brussels that killed 30, and they claim responsibility for it, and it's not hard to see that they did it for religious reasons, because they're fundamentalists in terms of what they believe in their Islamic religion. They move on to evolutionary thought. Religious practices, some see them as maladaptive to Darwinian thought in terms of evolution. There's some practices where people mutilate themselves or sacrifice valuable goods, and with this, it doesn't really make sense in terms of evolution because it doesn't really promote your survival. So it begs the question: why do people do it? And I searched a little bit, and I found a kind of a interesting reason as the religion gives people hope and optimism. Even though it doesn't help them survive, it actually gives them something to live for. And integrating these two ideas, there's many cases where people complain about evolution being taught in schools. People write in talking about how they don't want that because it undermines their worldview of the children. I think that teaching evolution along with religion helps to open up the minds of the people who are it's being taught to, gives them an objective look on the world and helps them form their ideas. And it's kind of ironic because religion has its own evolution, starting out way back in the day there, with Native Indians believing that animals had spirits along with the plants, and they believed in the higher power they called the creator. And then it moves on throughout times with polytheism in the ancient Greeks, and progressed even further the religions we know today, which is single gods. And it just goes to show that even though religion and evolution are almost polar opposites, they have some similarities. In evolution, it can even help to explain religion. And that's why we're excited.